Hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis and we're back at it. I have some more underrated fragrances for you that, don't really get hardly any love here in the YouTube fragrance community. And so I kind of just want to shed a bit more light on these fragrances because I feel, in my humble opinion, that they are extremely well made and, I enjoy the wearing experience of these fragrances from beginning to end, and I just want to share those with you today. So I went through my collection. I have 5 underrated fragrances that, if you feel intrigued, you should definitely check out. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions about these fragrances, then let's go. First up, from the house of Vver Perfumes Kuwait, we have Royal Vetiver. Man, so this one is a vetiver bomb, and it's right up there with like Incident Diplomatique from Javoy or Nishane Sultan Vetiver. This is such a pleasurable vetiver wearing experience. Now, one thing that I really love about this one is just this vetiver is combined with a bit of fruitiness. Now, I don't know if there's actual fruits listed in the note breakdown of this fragrance, but I get like a subtle sweetness coming from some fruits, I think, and combined with that grassy, earthy vetiver, it just makes this one so enjoyable to wear. There's also a bit of smokiness in here, and I would say kind of like a very, very subtle, slight ashiness, but I really enjoy that about this one. I believe that it really helps to give this fragrance a bit more character and depth. But yeah, I really love the wearing experience of this. Now, one thing that I'll say about this fragrance is that, of course, we all love a fragrance that performs well on our skin. But I will say, sometimes that can kind of work in reverse a little bit.
This fragrance is almost too strong.
It is beastly nuclear. If you're spraying more than once with this one, you are just going to, you might overwhelm. I remember I had worn this one to work one day. I wore 3 sprays. I filled the entire workplace up. And so, of course I could smell it at the time, but all my coworkers, all of them were just like,
oh wow.
Kind of like one of those. Not that it was necessarily unpleasant, but it was just so intense. So, lesson learned. If you are gonna wear a fragrance like this to the workplace, typically vetivers do work really well in the workplace, in my humble opinion, but this one is just so intense. So, you've been warned. But like I said, I guess if I was looking at like a slight downside would be that it's just too strong, almost too strong. But I just, manage the sprays a bit better now. But yeah, I usually just do 1 spray with this one. That's all you need. It will last you the entire day, but it is really a gorgeous and beautiful wearing experience. And it's definitely one to check out. And you really don't hear about Vver Perfumes Kuwait being talked about a whole lot in the fragrance community. I think they're kind of a newer house, maybe just a few years old, but I've smelled this one, of course, and then one of their other vetiver fragrances, and that one's a great one as well. I think it's called Vver Amber. I'm not 100% sure if that's the name of it or not, but I think it's kind of like that, and that one's a gorgeous scent too. But yeah, this one's definitely one to check out from the brand. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Royal Vetiver by Vver Perfumes Kuwait. All right, next up, from the house of Mayo Fushiuni, we have Little Song. Man, what can I say? This one is dark, mysterious, slightly haunting, very sexy, and extremely intriguing. This is such, oh my God. When I first smelled this one, so I smelled this one in the store at the No Shop in Japan. And on, I guess, the kind of Tetra strip that they had, it smelled good. But once I tested this one on skin, this one just opened up and I really understood this fragrance. Basically what you get here is you get some dark black coffee combined with some tobacco, a bit of vetiver, and also you get a subtle touch of rose in this fragrance. But the combination of those notes together just makes this fragrance so intriguing, and it's some of my favorite notes. I really love a good coffee fragrance, and so that note is quite prominent in here. And as you guys know, I'm a huge vetiver and rose lover, and tobacco as well. So I mean, it's just kind of a dream come true. But the wearing experience here is absolutely gorgeous. But this is one of those fragrances that's just magical and transportive. You know, a fragrance like this takes you on a journey. It's creating an image in your mind, a vibe. This is it for sure. I really, really love this one. This one is unisex. This is right down the middle for me. And I feel like this is one of those fragrances that would work great on a date night. Maybe not in a first date scenario, but if it's someone that you've been dating for a while, this one, again, it's just almost kind of alluring in a way, but just sexy there, and it is quite dark. And yeah, in terms of performance, what I get out of this one, I get kind of moderate projection and kind of a moderate to strong sillage, but the longevity on my skin is about anywhere from like 8 to 10 hours. But yeah, it's just a very gorgeous and pleasant wearing experience. And yeah, I can't speak more highly about this fragrance. I feel like it's one of those fragrances that will just change your life once you smelled it, and that's exactly what it's done to me. But yeah, this is a great one. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Little Song by Mayo Fushiuni. Next up, from the house of Maison Violet, we have Sketch. Man, so this is such a gorgeous patchouli and vanilla combination here, and it wears so much like an amber style fragrance. And when I smelled this one, you know, kind of reminded me a bit of like MFK's Grand Soir. It kind of pushes in that direction, but they're definitely not the same fragrance by any means. This one also kind of has like a powdery type of effect to it, and I think this one has orris in it, which is giving it that powdery like vibe. But man, I love the wearing experience of this one, and this one was created by one of my favorite perfumers, Natalie Lorsan. You know, if you're not familiar with her work, you should definitely check her out. And she's pretty much been the house perfumer for Maison Violet. I think she's created all the fragrances for this house. Man, if you haven't checked out anything from the house of Maison Violet, you definitely should. The other fragrance that I absolutely love, and which is also an underrated fragrance from this house, is called Un Air d'Apogée. It's definitely one of my favorite tobacco fragrances. But yeah, Sketch is such a gorgeous wearing experience. It works perfectly in the fall and winter, and this one is definitely unisex. It leans right down the middle in my opinion. Such a gorgeous and well done fragrance. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Sketch by Maison Violet. All right, next up, from the house of Nikolai, we have New York Intense. Now this one is old-fashioned perfumery done in a modern way. This is definitely mature smelling, but it doesn't smell dated in my opinion. But this is kind of that classic take on, I guess, the fougere genre, but it has like a different twist to it. Yeah, so this one does have a bit of animalics blended into it, but they're pushed ever so slightly in the background. So I don't know, to my nose, I don't really pick up on it so much, but I do feel like it adds an overall kind of depth to this character that, you know, if it didn't have it, it would probably change the scent profile a bit. But like, this has those kind of typical classical notes that you would see in a fougere, like oak moss and lavender. But yeah, it just has a lot of character. And this one is a fragrance that I tend to wear like if I'm dressed up in a suit. It just has a sense of professionalism about it that I really, really feel fits well in that type of environment, like a business environment. This one just has just a true magical quality about it that I really, really love. So I'm looking forward to, you know, wearing this on those special occasions when I am dressed up and in a suit. This one works a treat. So if you can, get yourself a sample of New York Intense by Nikolai. And finally, from the house of Sarah Baker, we have Symmetry. So this one is such a beautiful combination of citruses and oud, and that combination alone makes this fragrance extremely unique. You know, you don't really see oud blended with citruses so much. You see that typical kind of oud rose combination, or even sometimes oud and patchouli, but oud and citruses, you know, you don't really see that often. Now, this fragrance was created by Chris Maurice. He is just a god when it comes to working with oud, and even sweeter fragrances for that matter. You know, he's done a lot of work with Xerjoff, but yeah, he's done a phenomenal job here. Like I said before, you know, you have those citruses, which is kind of the light side, and then you have the oud, which is the dark side. So it's just the pairing of those two opposites, which is just very intriguing for me. And I do really love the wearing experience of this. But what I will say is, if you're someone who isn't a fan of animalic fragrances, then this may or may not be your cup of tea. But I really enjoy the wearing experience. And this is an oud that, depending on your, you know, summer climate, you could definitely pull off in those hotter temperatures. Like I said before, that balance of the citruses there, I think really makes that possible with this particular fragrance. Now you can also push this one into like the fall and spring. It will work perfectly in those temperatures as well. But yeah, this is such a gorgeous wearing experience. And again, this is one of those fragrances that will set you apart. It's just different, but pleasurable. Different, but pleasurable. And that's something I really love. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Symmetry by Sarah Baker. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And do you know any of the fragrances that I've shown you today? And what are your thoughts and opinions about them? I'd love to hear them. All right, well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.